I've got a list of about 11 questions that I'll ask you to choose from. But you don't know what you're choosing. You'll just choose a number and I'll read the question.
Okay.
And then, if you don't like it, we can pass on to another one. But they're pretty, I don't know, they're really fantastic themes that we're going to chat about. So, may I learn your names first?
Monsy.
Monsy. I've never met a Monsy before. How do you spell it?
It's short for Montserrat, but I go by Monsy, Monsy.
Lovely to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
And I'm Gabbie.
Gabbie?
Yes.
I'm Binyam.
Biniam. Nice
Binyam.
Biniam.
With a B.
Biniam.
Binyam. You got it.
How do I spell that?
Binyam.
Biniam. Nice.
Thank
I've
you.
never met a Biniam.
If you ever meet another Binyam, you can confidently guess we're either from Ethiopia or Eritrea.
Okay.
And translated in English, it's Benjamin.
Benjamin.
Indeed,
Okay.
which is more familiar. So, Gabbie, between the numbers 1 and 11, choose me one number.
7.
7. All right. Is it better to be flexible or strict in one's application of personal integrity?
Flexible.
Flexible.
Yeah, do you want me to elaborate on that?
Sure. Tell me why.
Well, it's definitely my own personal thing, but I guess in my world, I've always been a flexible person. I've always been Switzerland in my everyday life, and that's how I live my world.
Yeah. Did you say you grew up in Switzerland?
No. Like, I'm just like, like that term of like, I'm always like, this seems great, or like, maybe we should learn about this instead, or like trying to look in other people's perspectives.
Yeah. So it depends
And
on the
I've
context.
grew up in a household where things can be strict, but then also I was always learned to have an open mind.
Monsy,
Oh, same question?
same question.
Oh, this is awesome. Okay.
For
Well,
our audience who's off camera, we should define integrity. What do you guys feel
I was
integrity
going
is?
to ask you to define it. Can I do that? Can I ask you to define integrity?
Absolutely, absolutely. May I piggyback on your thoughts first?
Sure. I guess when I think of integrity, it means being truthful to your word. And what you portray to the world is genuinely who you are, authentically. So I don't know if that's really a definition, but
I love it. Yeah. There's, I think, an inherent sort of assumption of values in there, right?
yes, absolutely.
So mine, I've actually thought about for some time. I think of integrity as a consistent desire for one's internal values to match their external actions,
Yes, nice.
whereby they're true to themselves and respectful of others around them.
Mm-hmm.
And part of that definition I've come to believe is integrity doesn't make sense if you're the only person in the world. I think
like that.
integrity only matters when you find yourself in community with other people around. Because if you're
Right.
the only person in the world, you can do whatever you please
Right.
without any thought of. But only in the setting of how do we get along with others around us does it start to have traction. Or so it seems.
I
Yeah.
can appreciate that for sure. That makes sense.
So multifaceted, but those are, and I like the desire aspect because you know what it's like when you do something because you have to do it versus I want to do something. If you have to do it, I find most of us by nature just cut corners, which is another good question I just thought of. Can you cut corners with integrity? Oh, another day.
Yeah, maybe that's question 11.
Yes, but back to the question though. In your application of integrity, personally, do you find that you are flexible or strict with it?
Yeah, it's a good question. And it's funny because we're sisters and we're very much alike, but very much not.
Okay.
So naturally, I'm going to go with the exact opposite of what she said.
The difference is that you're a mom, and I think that plays a lot into. Sorry for interrupting
Yeah.
you, but I feel like that plays a lot into like you're raising children,
Yeah.
and so I'm still living my life, and I'm still learning.
Yeah, and you're capable of being quite flexible. You've always been pretty flexible. But I think for me, I would say strict. Who I am internally is who I want to portray externally. And it doesn't, maybe I'm stubborn, I don't know. But it doesn't really change much. It's kind of what I put out there is what I feel. And I think it's important to be strict with that, not super movable, because, and hopefully your values are good ones, and that's why you can stick to them, right? But yeah, that's what I would say.
Gabbie, in your expression of flexible integrity that you're in the season of, are there any hard limits that it says, actually, here's the firm line now? And vice versa,
guess it
are there
really-
flexible points for you?
It's such an ambiguous question though, because it depends on in what aspect. Where I work talks a lot about one of the core values is integrity. So we bring a lot of humility to the work.
Yeah.
And so where's the hard line? I think the hard line is when you're disrespecting a community, a person, boundaries. I think that's where the hard lines are for me. And when I say flexible, it's more of like, I'm always continuously learning, and I think that's just like the definition of humility is, you're always continuously learning. But when you're bringing, flexibility, the hard lines of integrity would be just respecting people's boundaries and who they are, if that makes sense.
Well, I like this because there isn't any definitive answer per se, but it's really in how people explain the nuances to their values, in essence, right?
Yeah, I think she nailed it there. I mean, and hard lines for me would just, or perhaps when I would be flexible is, like she said, I'm a mom, so I teach my kids, we're inclusive, we are kind to everybody, but here's our values, and we don't stray from those values. This is how, kindness is one of our values, right? And so it doesn't matter what's happening in the outside world, we're always going to be kind, we're always going to be, do the right thing even when we don't want to, and things like that. So, but I think flexibility would come in with allowing others to do what they want to do as well.
Sure. Just 2 more questions, if I may. My podcast is specifically geared for young men, inspiring them towards integrity. In general, do you feel young men are nailing it in the sphere of integrity, or are they finding tremendous challenges to overcome?
I think they're finding tremendous challenges right now, for sure.
In your observations, where would you say those lie primarily?
I think today's young culture has a lot to do with hookup culture, right? It's all about convenience, and I think young men, they need to be guided a little, well, in my opinion, right? But hopefully they can be guided a little bit more into, because men play a very, very, very important role in society. And so with the difference in today's culture, young men, I think, could use some more guidance. I don't know how else to say that.
Yeah, no, I hear you. And like I say, this is just
long
from observation, right?
Yeah.
How do you feel, Gabbie?
Sorry, I was.
That's okay.
My dog's in your camera there, so I wasn't really listening. What was the question?
In general, do you feel young men are doing well in exemplifying integrity, or are they struggling along the way?
It depends. Young men.
I'm speaking primarily to young men. That's the specific audience I'm reaching.
Right.
And just observationally.
Yeah, I think they're struggling. I think a little bit. Just like when you talk about like the convenience, like the hookup, the quick access to things, and I don't know. I've met a lot of great men. That's why a lot of young great men use. I don't know what you're considering, young, but and I've also met a lot of individuals and that maybe are struggle because they're still learning of what that means to them.
Yeah. If you had the collective ear of young men who are saying, we want to experience integrity or exemplify it better, but we have no idea where to start, what suggestive starting points would you pose to them?
I think along the way we forgot what hard work is. I think that men need to work is a big part of life, and I think a young man working is extremely important. Because, I mean, let's be frank, men have a lot of testosterone at that age. They have to do physical labor. They have to get out. They have to be exercising. They have to be doing all the things that will exert that energy for them. Because as of right now, what I'm observing, which could be totally wrong, is that it's a lot of, who can I hook up with this weekend? How much partying can I do? And that's just what I've been seeing. And like I said, I mean, I'm not a young female in that way anymore, so it could be wrong, but I think that if they can focus on bettering themselves by physically, emotional intelligence, all those things, I think it would serve our world well and our society well. My thoughts. Maybe I'm being too harsh. I feel like I'm a jerk. I'm like, well, let me tell you the truth here.
Sometimes I think that's the most helpful thing is when we hear the honesty, right?
Yeah.
Instead of like the pampered, oh, it's all right.
I'm pretty tough love, that's for sure.
Well, you can see where the strictness comes from.
Yeah, like, let's go, people.
Where can they look to start learning about integrity? I honestly just being observant of other people's actions, being observant and listening to other people, and just genuinely listening to them. I'm someone who's always observing. I'm someone who's, hold the door open for your elders, for the women, for the guys coming through, whoever. And I think just like honestly having a conversation with someone, just like you walking up to me today, like I'm always gonna say I'm gonna say yes to an opportunity, like why not, and I think that just say yes to an opportunity will open up a lot of things, and just be open-minded, bring humility into your everyday life. And I was going to say, listen to your mothers, but not everyone has the privilege of having a mother.
Yeah.
So recognizing that, so that's why I say, get to know someone, be observant of people around you, and see the good in things. There's always a silver lining to everything.
I think there's a lot of, this might sound harsh, but I think there's a lot of loss in masculinity, and so I think that, I don't know, I think that men need, at the end of the day, men are leaders, right? And they need to lead the society. And women, I mean, we're wonderful, we've got our place too, but men have their place and they need to lead. And I think if young men knew that and felt empowered by that, that they could do well with that. I think that's important.
What if they step aside though and let the women be the leader?
I think
just posing, being devil's advocate.
No, for sure. Because I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, I feel women are extremely powerful, and I love that about us. But I do think that women's role is more of an intuitive, wise role, where I think men's role is more of a leading role, leadership role. And that's, maybe it's a little old-fashioned, but that's what I think.
May I respond to your to your challenge as well? That was a really interesting one too. I would suggest there's ways that both sexes, men and women, can pursue integrity while also accommodating for the individual makeup that they are.
Yes.
So there are some men who have a lot of soft characteristics that may not be defined culturally as machismo. There may be some women who have a lot more domineering, like go get 'em kind of thing, But there's still ways I imagine that those diverse expressions of personalities could still be have their day and being while still having integrity. Right? Yeah, absolutely. And it's lovely when we remind ourselves we're not cookie cutter models. This is not what it's like to be masculine, definitively, right? Yeah. That's how I'd respond. That's a good one, though.
Yeah.
My final question is, do you have any questions for me?
What's your podcast called?
It's called Inspiring Young Men to Integrity. I house it on YouTube and you can find it under my name, Binyam, a bin full of yams, so we'll get you the Binyam. Binyam Asterisk.
Okay. How many episodes do you
Let's see, about 20 on my belt now.
What inspired you to start this podcast? Like, what is it that you are in search of with this podcast? Or
Ooh, that's a good question. For me, it's personal. I've lived, I would say, years, maybe a couple of decades, trying to figure it out, trying to understand how to like experience it, and really struggling. And experiencing a lot of loss and pain, hurt that I inflicted and also received as well too. Where I'm currently at now and where I've come to, I really appreciate, and I wish I'd had access to this back then. So perhaps there are other young guys that are where I once was.
guiding and leading them.
I'm
That's
hoping
wonderful.
to give some pointers or some
Yeah.
indications of here's what it could look like. Yeah,
Well,
so
I
it's-
love that. That's exactly what I think. That's exactly what they need. Someone like yourself to inspire, motivate, lead. So that's really great.
Thank you. Okay, let me see. Gabbie, Monsy.
Monsy.
Oh! Thank you for taking the time. I so appreciate it in the midst of your family here.
Yep. No
Yeah.
worries. Thank you.
Thank
Hope to see you guys again along the way sometime soon.
Yeah,
Thank you
best
for
of
lending
luck.
them to me.
No, for sure.
All
Check
right.
out your podcast for sure.
I appreciate that. Like I said, if you search on YouTube for my name, Binyam Asterisk, and then you'll find these conversations and sort of like addresses that I have to young guys in general. You'll see a lot more of my history back then too, and yeah.
You put out stuff like weekly
I do it daily actually.
or daily?
Yeah,
gosh.
except for weekends.
That's
Weekends I
ambitious.
usually do this. I know. I'm driven though.
Good for you. Yeah, if you have to drive, absolutely.
Thank you.
Nice.
I never got your name, by the way.
I'm Josh.
Josh, I'm Binyam.
Nice to meet you,
Pleasure
Binyam.
to meet you as well. And Monsy and Gabbie, I would never have guessed you two were sisters.
I know.
And this is the mom.
That's Mom.
Obviously.
Still. Where are you all from, if I may? You have your background. What is it?
I'm born in Mexico.
Mexico.
Oh my gosh, it's
I
starting
thought
to
maybe
rain.
China. No, I'm kidding.
Keep giving me back. Keep giving me back.
I tease. I
That's
tease.
great. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you for
I
lending them
hope
to
they
me.
help
Done.
Don, pleasure to meet you as well. Thank you for lending them. I felt a raindrop.
It's getting,
Oh,
yeah.
no.
Yeah. And you know, old people, it's
Yes.
like, okay.
I
it's
know. I'm telling today.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you so
pleasure.
much. Have a good day for
To
me.
you. I really like